Hello, welcome to AI Wisdom. My name is Crispin. Today I'm going to tackle political bias in AI technologies. It is without question that ChatGPT, the free version, does have political bias. I think that's been pretty well established by a large number of people who have made various inquiries. I am very pleased to say that in GPT-4, much of that bias has been corrected. Things that are politically toxic or controversial are addressed by GPT-4 in more diplomatic ways. Doesn't come down so hard on one side or the other, but will see things from different points of view and present objective evidence or facts about a particular case, acknowledging the different perspectives and leaving it to the user to make that decision. Now, of course, it's not perfect, but it is a lot better than certainly most media and other algorithms that we see on the internet. In a sense, AI in GPT-4 is more unbiased than other forms of media. And I really did put GPT-4 to the test. I asked it a question about science, a science area which was also being dragged into the political sphere, regrettably. And I asked the scientific question, which it answered truthfully, while acknowledging the political bias and controversy that surrounds it and how to diplomatically discuss these issues. It even used language that I didn't necessarily agree with, and I probed it on that specific issue. Be like, would it be more accurate to describe the situation like this? And GPT-4 acknowledged that it would. So it's not trying to impress upon me as a user any political view. It is simply presenting the fact that political debate does exist, and that is exceptionally good. Now, not perfect, it has a way to go, but it shows that a politically unbiased AI system is possible. It's not going to last. One of the risks with AI isn't that the AI system itself will become self-aware and decide that humans are an inconvenience or a threat to its programming or somehow other destructive and therefore needs to be combated. That is a risk. But a more primary risk, an earlier risk, is that humans will seek to use AI in nefarious ways. It's already doing that when it comes to social credit in China, for example. Take that to a superintelligence and that becomes a totalitarian nightmare, the likes of which Stalin could have only dreamed of. Those creating AI in the West will seek to advance a political ideology that they hold on the basis that political ideology is more correct. The reason people have ideologies is because they believe that it answers the question why the world is the way it is and how do we address injustice and unfairness in society. Some people will say that we need to do things that are socially progressive. Others will say we need to empower individuals to make more of their own choices. Some people believe that there is racial injustice, social injustice based on structural inequalities. Other people will say that that is nonsense. As a collective society, we have these debates and struggles in the marketplace of ideas using the format of democracy in order to see which ideas will win out. It's not the case that any side, so to speak, has a monopoly on correct ideas, or even that the ideas that win out are the right ones. They just happen to be the most popular at the time of elections. Whereas using AI systems, you can manipulate not just the ideas that proliferate across the web, but also the very ideas that people hold by hacking into the way in which our biases and worldview are formed in the first place. It's an extraordinarily dangerous tool. In fact, even those that don't want for that to occur, who actually actively seek to be unbiased, and I put Sam Altman at the top of the list. I'm extremely grateful that the proto-innovations in this technology are being advanced by someone as thoughtful about this as Sam is. Nevertheless, by virtue of coming to it from a particular bubble, I myself have been to over 40 countries. I've lived in many countries. I've been to North Korea. I see things from many different points of view. The place I'm in now is not my home country and in fact has a very different culture and worldview, certainly to Australia, but also to San Francisco and Silicon Valley. It's its own perspective. However, if the innovations are coming from talent drawn from one political culture, that will necessarily be used to help train the AI systems. I'm very glad that Sam Altman is seeking to get outside of that bubble and speak to people from around the world, which he is actively doing. He expressed as much in his interview with Lex Fridman. It is critical that we don't not only become either Democrat or Republican in the US system, but America-centric generally. Humanity is broader than just one set of ideological suppositions. And if we can democratize that as much as possible, we will minimize the risk of political bias. However, there was a question that Lex Fridman asked, or in the way he framed the question, that really worried me. I really like Lex. He wants what is best for humanity, and he presents himself in that mold. But he used the example of information that is truthful, but he sees as dangerous. And an example he gave was IQ between groups of people. For example, there is a single demographic that has 25% of all Nobel Prizes. That is a tiny fraction of the world population. They're smarter than the rest of us people. That's just a reality. Now, we could explore the reasons why and really interrogate that, but Lex says, what if people get that information with hatred in their hearts? As in, we need to protect people from truthful information. My view is that AI systems, all search systems, Google as well, and I'm deeply critical of that, is simply a servant of the user. The user is the one who is responsible emotionally, psychologically, for how they use the information that they receive from the tool. Now, certain things will be restricted, and that should be a very high bar. How to make nuclear weapons, how to commit mass murder for $1. These things that we could all agree are destructive, universally socially harmful. But getting factual information that can be used for scientific and academic purposes, even if it can be misused, is not, in my view, the role of anybody else to censor. It's something that the user has responsibility for and can use AI technology to gain knowledge about the world. I personally don't believe that facts are harmful, or there's such a thing as hate facts, or if they are, that the harm caused at an aggregate level by censoring that is equal to the harm caused by the censorship itself. So my hope is that we do devise, implement, and distribute AI systems that are support tools that are not politically biased. And again, hats off to OpenAI for GPT-4, which is a big step in that direction. Not perfect, it still has biases, but not as pronounced as ChatGPT by any stretch. But I think the reality is that political pressure, ownership by governments, interstate competition, competition between companies, and the ideological presuppositions of developers will ultimately win out. And the evidence I have for that is that the vision of the internet itself has been subverted by that already. If we go back to when the internet first became a thing, a transformative technology, the idea was that people would be able to express themselves liberally. They would exchange ideas across the world, be exposed to different perspectives, worldviews, and philosophies, and it would progress and improve humanity as a whole. Well, what we've seen instead is the concentration of information in the hands of a few Silicon Valley companies, and that has, I would say, suppressed the free exchange of ideas. Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter, however you feel about Elon personally, was at least motivated by reducing some of that censorship and bias. You can debate whether he succeeded in that, whether Twitter is better or worse as a consequence of his takeover. But the need for a new public square where the open marketplace of ideas can be exchanged freely is there, and Elon sought to achieve that. The proliferation of an AI system that supplants most functions in society, that would, for whatever purpose, seek to impose an ideology on the rest of humanity, is itself dangerous. And there is, even with GPT-4, a limitation in that regard. Sam Altman is a big proponent of UBI, Universal Basic Income. As someone who understands at a fundamental level the degree of likely dislocation that artificial intelligence presents, and we'll certainly explore that in other videos, it's understandable that Sam Altman will be like, look, there's going to be a lot of people left behind. We need to make sure that in the environment of increased productivity, reduced overall scarcity, we don't just maximize value for a tiny minority, but we provide a general floor of prosperity for the largest number of people, allow them to actualize themselves in ways that they're most suited. That is totally an understandable position from a policy perspective, and one that I happen to agree with in this regard. But if I ask GPT-4 to create an ideal system of government from scratch, among its prescriptions is UBI. Now, one can be deeply suspicious that the AI system came up with that itself and wasn't influenced by the inputs that Sam Altman provided. Even though UBI is something that I would agree with in these conditions, it is ultimately a policy and not even the question I specifically asked, which is what is the system of government that would maximize well-being and human felicity, rather than the policy prescriptions that that government would then advance. In short, even for the most benevolent of reasons, to mitigate some of the risks of harm that the technology itself might bring to society more broadly, political bias can be injected at any stage, and any such injection is potentially harmful. That's my view. What do you think? Do you think I'm overstating the case? Do you think that political bias should be injected, that we should have debate among AI systems about politics just as we humans do? I would love to hear your thoughts down below about this. It'll be an ongoing discussion influencing us more and more as time goes on. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.